Welcome to Canadian Food Labeling: Factors to Consider Before Selling Foods in Canada by Carol Fournier, President of ACC Label. Hello, and thank you for your interest in ACC Label. ACC Label's mission is to help businesses like yours comply to Canadian food labeling regulations. We can help you save precious time and avoid the cost of non-compliance while maintaining the product's marketability. In this presentation, I will talk about the factors to consider relative to the food itself, the labeling requirements, including the nutrition facts table, the cost of non-compliance, and licensing requirements. About the first item, the food itself, you may want to verify whether it may be sold in Canada as formulated. Are all the ingredients and food additives authorized in the product under Canadian regulations? Does the product meet Canadian composition or grading requirements? May or must the product be enriched? If so, is it enriched according to Canadian standards? After validating whether the food may be sold in Canada, the next step is to make sure the label complies with Canadian regulations. If the product passes customs and reaches the retail market, will it be subject to a food recall? Canadian food labeling regulations cover just about every label element, including the product name, the net quantity, the list of ingredients and allergens, pictures or graphic elements on the packaging, value-added claims, etc. Every label element is subject to regulatory or legal requirements, and you are responsible for the compliance of your labels. Complying to all the regulations can be challenging. Regulations provide for numerous exceptions. One may know the basic regulatory requirements, but may ignore the exceptions and the particularities to the exceptions. And to complicate things, the exceptions are often not grouped with the basic requirements in the regulations, so they can easily be overlooked. A poor understanding of the regulations makes it difficult to produce compliant food labels. One of the basic legal requirements is that a nutrition facts table is required on all food labels. Exceptions include single ingredient meats, poultry, fish, produce. However, the exceptions do not apply if the label bears a nutrient content or health claim, except for authorized nutrient content and health claims on packages of fresh fruits and vegetables. Exporting implies adapting your labels to the importing country's regulations. Labels compliant in USA or in any other country are not compliant in Canada. This slide shows the main characteristics of the Canadian ingredient list compared to the US ingredient list. Namely, the ingredient list must be bilingual English and French. The sugar-based ingredients must be grouped together. Ingredients must all be declared in descending order of proportion, even if they constitute less than 2% of the food product. And the Canadian regulations prescribe many graphic requirements to enhance the readability. Talking about graphic requirements, ACC Label created the Measure Act. This is an award-winning food labeling typographical tool to verify food labels with respect to the various graphic requirements prescribed by regulations. For example, it allows you to verify easily all the graphic features of the standard Canadian bilingual nutrition facts table, including the thickness of the lines. To verify the type size and leading space of the ingredient list and other label elements, and it includes a chart with Canadian and US type size requirements for the net quantity statement. As a Xi'an special, we are offering it for $25 instead of $30. If you would like to buy a measure rack, please leave us a line in our chat box or visit our website. Canada has its own list of priority allergens that must be declared when present, and the manner to declare them also differs from the requirements of all other countries. Every month, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency reports 10 to 20 food recalls, many of which are due to undeclared food allergens or non-permitted food ingredients. This is rather alarming, considering that a labeling error could be fatal. Omitting to declare an ingredient or allergen present in a food could lead to an anaphylactic shock and death. For some people with rare allergies, the allergen statement may not suffice. They must be able to rely on the ingredient list. Many efforts are made by Canadian and US authorities to harmonize the nutritional labeling regulations in both countries. Despite these efforts, major differences remain. The US label is not authorized in Canada, and the Canadian label does not comply with US regulations. For example, this slide illustrates some of the differences between the Canadian and US nutrition facts table. Now, upcoming regulatory modifications are expected within the next year or so. And these changes will require mandatory front of package nutritional labeling for all foods high in nutrients of public health concern, namely sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. Here are the 4 proposed symbols for the mandatory front of package labeling. Now we have to wait to know which symbol will be retained and the details of the final regulations. Meanwhile, we continue to do our labels based on the current regulations, and while fraud is clearly punishable by law, ignorance is not an excuse. Companies are responsible for their acts. A person who contravenes a provision of the Canadian Food-Related Acts and Regulations, or fails to do anything he was ordered to do, or does anything he was ordered not to do by the minister or an inspector, is guilty of an offense and is liable to a fine of up to $1 million and imprisonment for up to 5 years. In March 2018, Amco Produce was fined $210,000 and sentenced to a 3-year probation for misrepresenting imported greenhouse vegetables as products of Canada over a 15-month period. Will your product pass customs? A canned tuna company from Italy once had its entire shipment detained at customs because the label did not specify the color of the tuna, as required by Canadian regulations. Make sure your products reach the consumer. Make sure the Canadian importer holds a valid license to label and import food products. You worked hard to get this far. Make sure all your efforts aren't spoiled by neglecting certain legal requirements. Some risks help you grow, others are not worth taking. When it comes to labeling foods, it is wise to seek expert advice. Take some weight off your shoulders and leave labeling to ACC Labels experts. At ACC Label, we can help you prepare legally compliant Canadian food labels, produce nutrition facts tables ready to insert into your label artwork, ensure linguistic quality in both English and French while taking into account your marketing objectives. Nutrition is our background, food our passion, labeling our expertise. At ACC Label, we collaborate with producers, processors, importers, distributors, retailers, from local startup businesses to multinational throughout the world. My team and I generally care about our clients and believe you will greatly appreciate the personalized service we offer. For a quote, visit acclabel.com and fill out our request a quote form online. We wish you a successful Science Show and look forward to collaborating with you.